Hi guys, and welcome to another Game of Thrones epic history where we focus on several of Westeros' houses, great and lesser. And today we're going to focus on a house we are all well too familiar with, House Bolton.
In my family we say, a naked man has few secrets, a flayed man none.
What really annoys me about this house is its portrayal in the show. Don't get me wrong, I hate the Boltons so much, but if you've only seen them in the show, you have no idea the extent of their cruelty, and I promise you by the end of this video you'll hate them even more than you probably already do. But before we begin, I want you guys to keep one thing in mind. The show's portrayal of House Bolton is terrible. I understand the length of the show can only be at least 55 minutes long, but the executive producers and storyboard members have given them next to no foreshadowing, and you'll understand what I mean when we get to Ramsay Snow. Keep in mind, however, that we've only scratched the surface of who Ramsay is. If you don't like background spoilers, like me telling you more about his background and what made him like that, then don't watch. But by the end of this, and let me explain what I mean by background spoilers. We just met Ramsay, kind of. He only revealed himself at least halfway through the fucking season 3, and we may get an explanation from Ramsay in the show as to why he calls Theon Reek. But if you don't want to wait for that, then let's dive into it right now. But like I said, I am warning you, there are some background spoilers. I will go into why he calls Theon Reek, and why he's such a dick, and why you should seriously hate this kid more than Joffrey. So, the Boltons are an ancient and powerful house in the north, and for many years, and centuries for that matter, they were bitter rivals with the kings in the north, the Starks of Winterfell. The rivalry escalated into the Boltons eventually flaying the skins of several Starks and displaying them in their halls, and even a rebellion actually came to fruition, but the Starks were able to put it down. So 1,000 years ago, the Boltons have decided to bend the knee to the Starks and have since then remained loyal to them, and even ceased practicing their well-known art of flaying people alive, although it is still rumored that they still practice it in secret, which we all know is kind of true. When Robert's rebellion breaks out, Eddard Stark calls for his banners for war, and Roose takes up arms with the Starks, and participates in the Battle of the Trident. And after the battle was done, Roose comments to Robert that they should kill the legendary Kingsguard, Barristan Selmy, to which Robert just kind of brushes him off and calls for the Maesters to heal him instead.
He ignored my advice at every turn. If he'd been a trifle less arrogant.
So, during the start of Season 1 and Book 1, the current Lord of the Dreadfort is Roose Bolton. Not much is known about his childhood, except that when he became Lord, he resumed the practice commonly referred to as the First Knight. Basically, any commoner or peasant that gets married, their lord has the right to bed the wife on the wedding night. This has since been banned, but Roose Bolton still practices it in secret to avoid the Starks' meddling and complaints. One day, while hunting along the Weeping Water, Roose encounters a miller's wife and immediately wanted her. He hanged the miller for not informing him of their marriage and proceeded to rape her under her now deceased husband's dead body. Yes, now, as you can imagine, that is very fucked up, but hey, it's the Middle Ages, so why the fuck not? So, a year after this, the woman came to the Dreadfort with the newborn Ramsay in hand. Upon seeing her with the baby, Roose almost kills her, but seeing as how Ramsay had his eyes, he stops because the taboo of kinslaying is too shameful, I believe. Even for Roose, ironically. He gives her back the mill that she was kicked out of, along with several farm animals, so she can never tell Ramsay who his father really is. But a dozen years later, she returns to Roose to inform him that she needs help raising Ramsay, because he's so wild and unruly. So he sends her the servant known as Reek. Now, the reason they call him Reek is because some kind of birth defect causes him to constantly smell bad. Even though he bathes 3 times a day and wears like a crown of flowers on his head, he still smells like shit. So he has to sleep in the pigsty because nobody wants to be around this guy. A few years later, Roose goes on to accept the call of Robb Stark in his war against the Lannisters, and even demands a command of troops. He succeeds in harassing the Lannister supply lines, and even helps several of the River Lords take back Harrenhal to limit Tywin's options and footing in the Riverlands. Eventually, Roose and the leader of the mercenary group known as the Brave Companions reach a deal. If they help Roose take Harrenhal, then Roose will allow them to keep the castle after they leave. Here's the tricky part, though. The leader of the Brave Companions is known as Vargo Hoat. Or Hoat? God, I can't... It's like goat, but without a G, it's a H. And here's the thing, though. That guy, Vargo, he later goes on to sever Jaime Lannister's right hand in the books, but in the show, it's one of Roose Bolton's men who do it. I think his name is Locke. I don't know how that works. I guess they switched it up a bit. So Roose eventually takes Harrenhal, and ironically, Arya is his cupbearer. Remember in Season 2 when Arya was Tywin Lannister's cupbearer? God, I can't even say that word, cupbearer. In the books, it's Roose Bolton who actually commands her to be his cupbearer. So yeah, ironically, they switched it up. I don't know why they did that too. I honestly don't know why. But I'm glad they did, because the conversation Arya has with Tywin Lannister is actually pretty interesting. And no, Roose does not notice that the girl he just asked, to bring him his cup of tea is Arya Stark. He just mistakes her for a commoner girl, so. When Theon and the Ironborn take Winterfell, news reaches Robb's ears and comes to a conclusion that Theon must die for his betrayal, so Roose has a plan of his own.
Theon holds the castle with a skeleton crew. Let me send word to my bastard at the Dreadfort. He can raise a few hundred men and retake Winterfell before the new moon.
Now, this is where the book and the show vary so much. In that scene, you're led to believe that the Bastard of Bolton is currently at the Dreadfort. However, Ramsay has been imprisoned for what he did to his northern allies. I'll get to that later when we talk about Ramsay. However, sometime later, Jaime goes missing, and Roose has Locke hunt him down. In the books, it's Vargo, who brings him to Harrenhal. In a secret meeting, Roose assures Jaime that he did not give the order to cut his hand off, but Jaime reassures Roose and tells him that his mutilation will not be affiliated with the Boltons and to not worry.
As soon as you're well enough to travel, I will allow you to go to King's Landing, as restitution for the mistakes my soldiers made. And you will swear to tell your father the truth, that I had nothing to do with your maiming.
Roose sends Jaime off to King's Landing, and afterwards becomes sluggish and shows signs of becoming a traitor. However, so it doesn't look suspicious, he marches his troops on Robb's command, but does it as slow as possible, leaving the Stark's loyalists to be ambushed by Lannister troops, and keeping himself surrounded by Dreadfort and Karstark men, knowing fully well that the Karstarks are still pissed that Robb executed their fucking lord. Which, come on, Robb, like, at this point, I'm honestly I would have betrayed Robb too, because Jesus Christ, this is personal opinion. Robb does everything against everybody's advice. I understand you're king, but motherfucker, listen to people who know more than you. Holy shit. But anyways, like I was saying, Roose keeps his forces, near him, and they arrive at the Twins for the wedding of Edmure Tully and one of the Frey girls, in the event known as the Red Wedding.
Shown you the hospitality you deserve. My king has married, and I owe my new queen a wedding gift.
During the events of the Red Wedding, the Freys turn on their guests, and Roose Bolton delivers a final blow to Robb Stark. The planning of the Red Wedding was actually headed by Roose, Walder, and Tywin Lannister. They develop a devious ploy in which Walder lures Robb to the Twins under the pretense of an invitation to another marriage pact, so to allegedly forgive Robb's broken vow, I believe. However, Robb can't really refuse it, because he broke his vow to marry a Frey girl, and he has to take this opportunity to restore a broken alliance with Walder Frey, and because he needs more men in his fight against the Lannisters. It was also Roose Bolton who picked out each song for the wedding, so the Rings of Castamere was actually picked out by him as well. After the Red Wedding, Roose Bolton becomes the new Warden of the North, and he heads back up north to meet up with Ramsay, who has been going around making sure that all the Ironborn are removed from the northern region of Westeros.
Here's to the young wolf. Oh.
Forever young.